Now, let me ask you, are you familiar that you know that they built in the studio right here? Did you know that?
No.
There's a studio like that's really being developed. Dark Chem is having it. So a couple of nights, like see us here in the nighttime, I'll come here like late night and go through some beats and go over like the projects and whatnot. And sometimes I haven't recorded yet, but you know what I'm saying. But there's some recording right here. So that time when you were sitting here with Dayson and you were saying the metronome, that was actually Dark Chem making the beat. And we heard like the voice and everything. That was Dark Chem, creating. So
that's peace.
Yeah. So
I like that. Yeah, that's dope.
The guard was like, yeah, God, you gotta get Sunya to. I said, I don't know if he's gonna stay, longer than what he's supposed to, but yeah, that's something to,
I'm down. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what's up.
Because you with your artistry and what you've done is like, it's interesting, and it's like I'm still drawing up the idea of like really how to pull it all together with the music, the journalism, the books and everything, and the media.
I mean, with what I've done, people nobody's really done it, So.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like, the kind of the merging of journalism and an actual artistry. You know what I mean? Like, that's really not, I don't really see anybody who has done that, and that's not really something. It's almost like, because like when Benzino started rapping, it became like a conflict of interest, right? It became something else where people were like, no, you're not supposed to do that.
And that was a reason for me not to do this also. When I was like, no,
But you pushed back against it, and you did it anyway.
Yeah, because I've been doing it so long. I really felt doing this hip hop thing so long. I really felt that I would have a respectable bias, And doing this so long too, even before I started making a song, I was already embedded into it too much. In other words, like some of the people I think are great were already brothers. To me, other artists are students of mine. So like, I already had a lot of bias already, if you think of it that way, And it's funny because certain people think that that's not how you do journalism, that has to be biased, but I completely disagree. That's not music journalism. And the best music journalists to me, like two of the greatest I think in jazz, Ted Jiwa and Amiri Baraka, who's really my model here.
Right.
They weren't. Right. Murray Baraka was not embedded. He was making music. He was affecting music. You know what I mean? So he was in it. Same thing with Jiwa. He actually doesn't write about his stuff that much, but he makes music too. You know what I'm saying? So it just became part of the thing. I was like, this is a natural.
So it's all art. It's all art. Right? So the art of journalism, the art of the written word, the art of making music, the art of performing it, and the written word and it on paper versus as it's being performed, and that's something interesting, And like I say, this establishment is not. It doesn't really recognize that. Like, it doesn't recognize it as a whole art. It's like you got to compartmentalize it to the point where it's like it's separated. It's if you're a journalist, you have no business really.
Also too, because many of the so-called journalists that then make music, especially in hip hop, because it has been done, they're usually media personalities, or they're bad journalists. They're weak journalists. And when they make music, though, it's more commercial. So it usually sounds outdated in commercial attempts, Well,
then that's interesting. I want to know your opinion on Matt Hoffa.
Like the opposite direction. The artist becoming a media.
Yeah, right. Like, because to be honest with you, I'm more of a fan of his media work than his artistry. His music.
Yeah, because he didn't make a lot of records, like that.
Well, I think he was making records. He just never got
Yeah.
a chance to really be in the spotlight like now. And so now that his platform is taking off the way that it's taking off,
Well, the number one thing for a journalist in music is their black book, their contact with artists.
Mm-hmm.
So a person like him, like a lot of the other artists that become media personalities, they have the ability to get all these artists though. You know what I mean? But, you know, and I'm just putting it there as a comparison straight up because I'm willing to do it there. The few people that I've interviewed that he's interviewed is no comparison. His is all experiences and gossip. You know what I mean? And innuendo, whereas mine is about the music. You know, so none of these media personalities, they make they're artists and then they start doing interviews. It's funny that they interview people and they very rarely talk about the actual music making. I think the only one that comes close to being a quality interview that I would respect is probably Kweli. I think his interviewing is probably the best I've seen of an artist that ends up doing the media. He's probably the best.
Just with Matt Hoffa, because I know what you're saying, right?
And his interviews end up being good because he knows the stories.
And that's that's what I appreciate. That is that he
knows the stories.
It's a good interview,
and that's important.
And so the sweetness or the candy part of it kind of adds.
But because they're media personalities, though, I think that I hate the barbershop thing where other people that I don't give a shit about get to chime in. Like, for example, the Smith & Wesson interview that became a big drama because, like, one of them that is not Matt Hoffa started to say that, oh, you guys were selling out because you were doing shit with Tupac.
Oh, right.
That shows such bad fucking research, and you just talking about your 1994 impressions of being in New York City and doing no research, knowing nothing about what was happening because you didn't have any connections outside of that or did any research over the last 20 years.
Right.
Right?
But that's what kind of makes it entertaining because here's dude who doesn't even have any experience.
But those are journalistic mistakes.
That's okay. Right.
That I would never make. So you got entertainment out of a mistake that would be blasphemous for me to make. Right? That's really what happened. Because if you didn't know the story of how boot camp and everything, they was out there with Tupac and how they had friendships with him, but also then that means that you didn't do any research. Plus, these are stories that I already did. So that's why I say that. But I don't watch too much of that stuff.
No, I'm entertained. I mean, I kind of got away from it because I'm into my own thing, but I like it. I like it because it's like in contrast to like a Vlad TV.
Oh yeah.
Right. So like a Vlad TV, Vlad is really like you could really like in the observation of language and culture, like his whole language really tells on his whole background and culture of that he's not one of us.
Yeah. And
he's really looking all for the, whatever, juicy crime story behind us. He's looking for that.
And it's amazing how many people still go do interviews with him. And I really feel it speaks to the egos of the individuals.
The ego, right? Because it's all about the.
And the desire for a bigger platform.
The numbers. At the end of the day, and that's what he's building.
I've always been frustrated with that. Obviously, being labeled underground. You know what I'm saying? More in the underground, the unknown, and me deciding because it was when I started to write again really seriously after I stopped for a while in the late 2000s. I started again in the 2010s, and I said I'm not looking to write about Wu-Tang. And that's, I say Wu-Tang because I love Wu-Tang. I'm not looking to write about Wu-Tang or KRS-One. I'm not looking to find Rakim and do the interview. You know what I'm saying?
The ultimate interview.
Yeah, right? When there's so many and whatever. I said my focus is going to be on the best that are coming out right now. The ones that I could find the ones that need the art, the ones that have been going on and nobody's noticing, and that has continued. So it's always frustrating to see better interviews, and I say straight up, because when it comes to journalism, there's where my ego shoots out, you know. But where I have much better interviews, the best interviews, and they don't really get watched though. You know what I'm saying? Even as people say that they want, and I could just, man, I could, even 5% say, oh, I want the best music now and shit like that, and they're watching interviews of gossip, not like interesting people, gossip from people that they don't even like, you know. And I'm like, you're watching that, you know what I'm saying? When I'm giving you like the next shit, guys, the next shit, you know.
See,
but that's the way it goes. Do you know what I mean? I remember it was 5%ers, not anybody else. I'm just going to the extreme here. It was 5%ers, and they know who they are because it's a great example, and I get to use it all the time now for the rest of my life. And I was telling them, listen, this is years ago. I was telling them, listen, you know, you like that Griselda stuff. You know, watch out for Rome Streets and SDNAC. You know what I mean? Watch out, they're going to be the next shit. You know, like, you know, all the guys you like is wax, and you're always with the underground and shit like that. And even some other people, Spit Gems, all these guys. And you know what?
And now
they all became legends. They all have exceptional records. You know what I mean? And Roman Esty got put on by Griselda.
That's what I was just about to say.
Yeah.
Like, it's interesting because, you know,
like,
again, the signs of the support system.
Yeah. And I'm like, you know, like sometimes I don't know what people look at when they want to validate, or they just, no matter how much they say that they're underground or they keep it underground, they really want to just watch things that are popular, but are popular on the level that you feel comfortable with. So they want a certain level of popularity. Very few people listen to things that are absolutely not popular at all. Very rarely, you know? Very rarely do they willing to find a hip-hop album that nobody's ever heard of. That's, if they say that, the majority that say they are lying. They want to hear something, you know. They'll be cool with an underground artist though, but it's got to be on Pitchfork's radar. You know what I mean?
Well, you know, okay, like, but see, someone like me, you know, because I'm infinite, right? I do all these fucking different things, right? I'm all over the place. So, you know, it's not so much, you know, about like Pitchfork or, you know, fucking Vlad TV or my sort of thing, any of those. It's more about what can actually reach my attention, what can get on my radar. You know what I'm saying? Through all the fucking shit that, you know, the clutter, because I'm in a lot, there's a lot of like, you know, like walking through this, like going through all this fucking, you know, crazy.
But that's why I say that, because we just talk about hip hop. If there's anybody that has gone through all that muck, it's me. There's nobody that has gone through the muck like I have.
No, but I think, see you intentionally are going through it, whereas I'm going through it just like, you know, like you're going through it as a part of your creativity,
right? As
a part of your journalism, as a part of your job. Whereas me, I'm going through it like not really intentionally. Like it's not intentional. It's more like I'm just like, damn, like this here, god damn, like, you know, like I'm kind of like. I just want everybody to just shut the fuck up so I could, you know, I could make my videos, or I could, you know, I could do this, I could focus on this, and I'm, you know, so, but so in my case, it's like if something can actually reach me, because whereas you look at it like as you're going through, you're actually looking for it. I'm not necessarily looking for it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, so if it could reach my attention, then, you know, more power.
You know, it's at this certain stage though that I said with hip hop music though. I just say it blatantly, right? Unless you're in this shit, right? Which would discount you. Unless you're in it and you're a listener, I really feel this way. If you're not looking through the works I put out, you're doing yourself a disservice though. You're letting the algorithm guide you. It's you know. And I'm saying, because people use all these algorithm services of their Spotify's or YouTube Music's,
right.
And I'm telling you that if you're not using my shit,
you said that's when you really shoots out. Right?
If you're not using my shit, because nothing's giving you a detailed explanation. Like you could read my stuff and know that you won't listen to an artist. But they're out there. You could find the artist you want based on the way I write this stuff. You know? And it's not just the same shit. You know what I mean? And nobody's heard, like nobody even knows what the next shit sounds like. You know what I mean? If they do, they're bugging though. It's not the next West Side Gun record. You know? It wasn't, this past year, it wasn't the Conductor. It wasn't him. He was dope, but that was not the next shit sounds. You know what I mean? The samples and stuff, no. That wasn't it out of the whole year. It wasn't.
So what was it? What was it?
It's not even guys like Buddha Monk using samples and like discordant time signatures, like the way you know Dilla does. He does it a lot like that. You know what I mean? And then it comes out different, which is something I never heard people flip like the Dilla discordant style in a different way. You know what I mean? But people don't know that. You know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, you know, so yeah. I feel some, I
feel some way about it.
So I see, especially if I see my 5% brothers, you know, like I'm seeing them put up other bullshit that's weak, and I'm like, yo, you telling me you don't follow the best? You're supporting the best? Come on, man. Yeah, I can't put more years in this shit. You know, don't tell me when you're 60, now you want to tell me I was a shit though after when you're 60 years old and shit. And now you find records, you know. You find records all late and shit, and I'm putting them on now, you know. A lot of these records that they think they found, I already had them months before. So I don't know, you know what I mean?
Pop your collar,
Yeah.
Pop your
You found it? Like, you know, Al found it for you. The algorithm. Al found it for you, you know?
Found it.
And I had this shit for you, you know, for a whole year, you know? So I'm just saying, like that, but what I'm saying, that's the service that I'm providing. And the way I'm writing, I provide it where you don't have to agree with any of the shit that I'm saying. It's detailed so well. I've come to a point where that's why I say it's science on music. I'm detailing it so well that you can say, that's not the type of music I like. Well, that's exactly what I'm looking for. That's why this book that's 645 pages has its own contents and everything. And you could pick who you want to read about and go through it. It has its detailed index, table of contents that takes you through everything, you know? So you're not just fishing in the dark and everything like that. But that's what journalism is for. That's what music journalism is, you know? When I became an expert, to get to a level of quality expert, I had to first go through the fastest way was through the proper journalists that mined all of this. So I went through the Baracas, I went through the Scott Yanos, I went through Ted Jiwa, I went through all these people to see, you know? Look, this guy Ted, people like, oh, I find my own jazz, forget it, this and that. This guy Ted Jiwa wrote a book about songs. All the great songs and who did them, you know what I mean? So all of the great songs in jazz, like the standards, other songs, all of that. You know how much time it took to do that? You know? I'm like, I look at his shit and I'm like, damn, I want to do that shit. You know?
You're inspired.
Yeah, so the directories, all of that. This shit I wrote is a fucking directory, you know? You don't have to say, oh, look. And people be like that, and they're like, oh, I have my own decisions. I make my own decisions with music, though. That don't mean that you know what the fuck is out there. You know what I mean? That's what you do in the army? That's what you do in war? We do that in war, right? You say, well, I make my own decisions. I'm going to go out into the battlefield. No, you got to scout. I scouted the whole shit for everybody. You know? Right? And the standards of what I think is great and stuff is very easily tailored. Very easily tailored. You know? They're not using service, God. That's what I say. They're not using
this
service.
shit is so subjective, though, man. You know, like.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, so people like, you know, like. You know,
I keep it very upfront about how subjectivity works in the way I analyze stuff. So it ends up being like an objective subjectivity because you can make your decisions. You'll know exactly what you're getting. That's why the music journalist has to not just give his thoughts on a record, but has to actually know how to describe music. Because if you know how to describe music with great detail, not just temperature barometer, oh, this hot song, cold song, you know, shit like that. If you can do that, then the reader is going to be like, listen, this is the type of music I want to hear. You know what I'm saying? It's just like if somebody like, they don't really want to hear like deep shit. They just want to hear like boom bap bangers. You know what I mean? Like, and just battle bars. You know? If you're describing the music correctly, they easily could find that new shit that is like that. You know what I'm saying? But anyway.
Yeah, Sunyas, man, your opinion is very
authoritative.
Okay, authoritative, you know, very heavy. I was going to use the word heavy, but authoritative is very like, you know, like, listen, motherfucker.
You know, I say that though. You know, God, it's funny, right? Because I could be another way, but I put the 1,000 hours in it, though.
No. See,
you know what I mean?
That's important. You know that.
Like I'm giving. This is one book. I'm giving people a book that covers 550 albums.
So you earn.
Yeah.
The weight
and then
of your
I've done that every single, that type of book, I've done it every single year this decade. So I combined the first 2 years in one book, but then I did the next book and the next book, and out of these 4 years, there's 3 giant books. You know, if you were trying to find out everything that was out there, and then you didn't look at my stuff, you messed up. Like you deliberately hurt yourself. You know, you didn't do it right. You know? But
no, at the end of the day, I respect it. You know, I think the weight of your opinion is, you know,
yeah,
it's respectable. You know,
yeah,
and it may not get as acknowledged as it should because of, you know, the support system that I'm just trying to.
Yeah, it's also the field too.
The what?
It's also the field.
The field.
Music journalism is not something that's ever really been respected like that, especially hip hop music journalism. You know, some of the most infamous people, most of the people known in journalism, that's music journalism, is more for their infamy, not for their works, you know what I mean? Right? Or the things that they did outside of hip-hop, you know what I mean? Using it as a springboard, you know? The name of that Ted Gwiwa book, I don't know. I have the entire I have a lot of Ted Gwiwa books, including that one, though. If you want it, I could just give it to you. You know, I could email it to you, so you email me. But yeah, you know, I just think that in hip hop, we haven't had that type of documentation. You know what I'm saying? And it exists. And I'm the only one that did that. The only one to do that. Everybody else is just making lists. They're just making lists. You know? So that helps you, but you still have to do a lot of back work, and there's no analysis of music. And I don't care what anybody says. Just because you listen to hip-hop doesn't mean that you know it like that. You know? I listen to jazz all the time, though. The reason I always get something out of jazz is because I assume and know that there is a greater depth to it that is ever exposed. You know what I mean? And I keep learning that. You know? People that listen to hip-hop, they don't think that. They don't think that. You know, they think that they know all about it, though. You know? And that's not true, you know.
Yeah, well, there's a depth of
yeah.
There's an uncharted depth about hip hop that people don't really, you know.
Yeah.
A lot of times, it is about the algorithm or about what is commercially.
And so, like if you go to Genius.com and they have the lyrics, there was only like maybe 5% of the albums I wrote about had the lyrics in there. You know? Very few albums. Very few albums. You know? And I don't even know how they got in there. You know, some guy liked it, and threw it in there, and made mistakes, because, you know, I had to double check it too, you know? But,
I know, you know, I think we're all a part of, like, this, you know, system of, that's just, this convoluted system. Like I recently had somebody that I have, you know, I would say I have some respect for, you know, said, Drake is the top MC right now. I was like, this is coming from somebody like, it's almost like equivalent to when, you know, Jamal said the earth was flat. Was like, what?
That's crazy.
What?
Yeah.
But you know, we're all subject to some form of sickness.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I get like this because I see young kids, especially like my children, my niece, and how badly musically educated they are. There's no musical education.
Like, who's educating?
Yeah. About what music, like how to listen to music, how to identify a damn instrument on a song. You know, like, is that a trumpet? Is that a saxophone? They can't even do that. I'm not even asking if it's a baritone sax, like, you know, right? To even do that, you know what I mean? When we were young, though, we could listen to a salsa song. We know which one's the conga, which one's the bongo. Like, kid now?
You remember, like, we all like the same age. I remember going to high school thinking like, oh, I'm going to be able to get in the band and this, that, and the third. You remember when they started taking that type of shit out of the school system? So by the time I got to, you know, intermediate school,
yeah, it was gone. Yeah.
None of that. Even though we're from last century, so we still remember, and we saw on TV, like you said, you could know what the Congo is. You could
yeah, you would see the band and you could equate with that, you know what I mean?
Not now.
But yeah, it's just poor, you know?
You know what, I admittedly, God, you know, I let a lot of that go over my head a lot of times until I started making beats. And it was actually God that was like, oh, yo, this is that. You know what I'm saying? Like, sometimes it would be, for me, it might have been a little difficult to distinguish between, like, a piano and a guitar, right? But then, like, as I studied, the more I listened to it, and more, because, again, like, you know, I'm infinite. So I'm like a ball. I got my mind going all these different directions, or I'm doing all these different things. So, okay, yeah, that's a fucking piano, all right, yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? True, that's a piano, all right, but you know, it's a certain depth of study that you know, I had to take on to actually get to that level. You know what I'm saying?
It should have been like that. It's like the children are supposed to have access to all that. Even shit like you remember like I would see, you know, movies and shit, and they'd see little kids dissecting a pig, or they were doing chemistry shit. I didn't get to do none of that, mind you. When I got older and I got into things, I most definitely do chemistry. I'm into that, dealing with soil science and stuff. But that shit, when you start getting into it, you see music, all those arts and sciences. That's our nature. That's us. That's us. But they keep us blind ourselves. As babies, they keep us separated from the resources. You know, like, listen, it's payback. And I'm telling people that for me and for all those that come, my babies, grandbabies, all that, it's payback.
Yeah.
The system is disgusting, man. It's disgusting.
The system, see, that's what you can really pinpoint. There's a system of, you know, see, whether you have developed your own system of trying to get to, you know, the best albums.
Yeah.
Right? So whereas like myself, I might be in the system, but I'm like, all right, you know, I got the system just more like myself. I don't want to connect to all that. I want to do my own thing. I want to be, you know, but the system will take you all over the place.
Yeah, yeah.
And it'll you know, make you dizzy. You know,
Well, that you get to play with the resources. Babies don't ever get to get two pieces for real. And let me see what's up. Like,
You must do your own research, as I did.
If Mecca did this.